So, billions of dollars are pumped into global development every single year.
Oh, yeah, massive amounts of money.
Right. It's this massive industry built on the premise that we can, I guess, engineer human behavior from the top down.
Yeah. You picture those endless spreadsheets, the foreign aid budgets,
Uh-huh.
massive supply chain logistics.
Exactly. Like some official in a distant office pointing at a chart and saying, there it is. That's the metric we need to hit.
And historically, I mean, we really approach this like an engineering problem. We assume that if we just find the right economic lever to pull, or deliver the right shipment of materials, the behavior will just automatically follow.
Just fall right into place.
Right. But human behavior is rarely a math equation. It's messy.
Which is why today's deep dive is taking us somewhere completely different. We are looking at a case where a multi-million-dollar public health initiative didn't hinge on a spreadsheet, but on one local official deciding to pull out his own wallet.
It's such a wild story.
It really is. We are pulling from a fascinating reflection written by development professional Abdulkadir Amano, titled The Abu Influence, Leading a Community Beyond Open Defecation.
Yeah, so Amano went into the field in rural Ethiopia working on a market-based sanitation program.
Market-based, not a charity handout.
Exactly.
Mhm.
He thought he was there to study the mechanics of selling toilets. He expected to analyze supply chain bottlenecks, or maybe look at the data on microfinance models.
Right, he went in looking for a policy, but what he actually found was a person.
Yeah, he found Abu.
The real difference maker was this local leader named Abu. And to truly grasp how this one guy managed to drive permanent community change, we can't look at this from the sterile perspective of a project manager.
No, that won't work at all.
Right, so I want to challenge you, the listener, to step out of your current environment for a moment. Forget your commute, forget your office, step into the reality of a rural Ethiopian Kebele.
Which is a local community, right?
Right, a local community ward. We need to look through the eyes of the people Abu was actually leading.
Because if you are living in this Kebele, your daily reality is incredibly demanding.
Just constantly busy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your mental bandwidth is consumed by your livelihood, unpredictable crop yields, your family's immediate needs, and, a really complex web of local social dynamics.
You definitely don't have the luxury of theorizing about abstract public health.
Exactly. You're just trying to get by.
And your local leader is Abu, the Kebele chairman.
Yeah.
And from your vantage point as a villager, his daily life looks like absolute chaos.
Just putting out fires left and right.
Literally and figuratively. You see him constantly navigating security concerns, settling these really intense land disputes between neighbors.
Oh, land disputes are huge there.
Yeah, and absorbing heavy political pressures from higher-ups in the regional government. He is the focal point for every single crisis.
He's the desk where the buck stops in a subsistence community.
But here's the crazy part. Whenever he speaks to the community, the only thing he genuinely wants to talk about is sanitation.
Improved toilets.
Improved toilets. And he isn't doing this because some foreign NGO gave him a mandate.
Right. It's not a box he has to check.
No, he's doing it because he passionately believes the community deserves a better standard of living. But sitting there listening to him as a villager, you probably think improved toilets are an unnecessary luxury.
Oh, totally. They're expensive.
Very expensive. And they are definitely not a priority when you have immediate concerns about local security or feeding your kids.
It creates this massive disconnect for the villagers. Like, why is the man in charge of safety and dispute resolution suddenly obsessed with where people go to the bathroom?
Make it make sense, right? Okay, let's unpack this. It's like a company CEO obsessing over the employee break room while facing massive existential corporate lawsuits.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right. As a villager, you'd think his priorities are completely backward unless that break room is the actual foundation of the company's dignity. But Amano, the author, he's shocked by this. Why does Abu's focus stand out so much in the broader landscape of community development?
Well, it's exactly like your break room analogy, but take it a step further. It's a CEO realizing that if the employees don't feel respected in that break room, the company's core product will fail.
The foundation crumbles.
Yes. Abu realized sanitation wasn't just a side project. It was the psychological bedrock for community pride.
Wow.
And what shocked Amano is the authenticity of it. I mean, in the development sector, local leaders typically push initiatives out of bureaucratic obligation.
Because they have to.
Exactly. There's a quota or funding tied to it, or a strict directive from the capital.
And everyone can smell a bureaucratic mandate from a mile away. To the villagers, it's just white noise.
Total white noise. But Abu wasn't acting out of obligation. A kind of unprompted, authentic passion from a leader who was already buried in local crises, it acts as a pattern interrupt.
A pattern interrupt. I like that.
Yeah, it forces the community to pause and think, wait, why does he care so much about this? Maybe there is something to this that I am missing.
Because he clearly isn't reading from a script. But passion alone doesn't pay for concrete and labor. And Amano's notes point out that convincing families to invest their own hard-earned money into sanitation is notoriously difficult.
Extremely difficult.
Especially because, like we said earlier, this was a market-based sanitation program. This wasn't an NGO handing out free stuff.
Which is a crucial distinction to make. For decades, the traditional model in development was just that, right? NGOs giving away free latrines.
Just dropping them off.
Yeah, but free things in development often fail. They break, they get used for grain storage, or they are just abandoned because the community never bought into the concept in the first place.
There's no ownership.
Exactly. So market-based sanitation forces the community to pay for it themselves, ensuring they actually want it. The problem is, parting with scarce cash for a toilet is a massive hurdle for these families.
Yeah, Amato points out a core truth that is so often missed by development practitioners. He notes, people rarely buy what they need. They buy what they value.
That is a profound distinction.
Needs versus value.
Right. Needs are biological or logical.
Right.
Value is psychological and emotional.
It seems like Abu recognized that traditional health workers were essentially trying to sell medicine, like germ theory, disease prevention.
Yes.
When what he actually needed to be selling was a lifestyle.
That is a perfect way to frame it. When you tell someone they need something for health reasons, you are appealing to an abstract delayed benefit.
Like eat your vegetables.
Right. If you don't do this, you might get sick next year. And human beings are notoriously bad at acting on delayed risks.
Oh, universally bad at it.
But when you shift the conversation to dignity, convenience, and safety, those are immediate, deeply felt emotional values.
I mean, no one wants their family to feel unsafe walking out into the brush in the middle of the night. That is an immediate, visceral priority.
Abu understood that perfectly. So he stopped acting like a rule enforcer, and he started organizing these large community meetings.
But not just the usual town halls, right?
No, he didn't just invite the villagers. He brought together the health extension workers, the local sanitation marketers, the artisans who actually physically build the facilities.
The masons and builders.
Yep, and key community influencers. He gathered the entire ecosystem of the problem into one room.
So back in the community, imagine you are sitting at one of these gatherings as a villager. Instead of a politician yelling at you about violating a health code, you were invited into a dialogue.
A real conversation.
Yeah, you were sitting with the health worker and the mason who pours the concrete, and the conversation is about the dignity of your family. You are actually being listened to.
It changes the whole dynamic.
It does. But if we look at this through the eyes of the villager, Abu isn't acting like a government official enforcing a rule anymore. He's acting like a master marketer.
Absolutely.
How does shifting the conversation from health requirements to dignity and safety completely rewire a community's willingness to change?
Well, what's fascinating here is the psychology of behavior change. By having all those people, the artisans and the marketers in the room, Abu didn't just sell the why of the value.
He gave them the how.
Exactly. Immediately provided the how. If someone was convinced about the dignity aspect, the person to build it was sitting right next to them. The friction was gone.
So smart.
Furthermore, Amato notes that Abu actively facilitated microfinance services.
Wait, let's dig into that mechanism, because traditional banks aren't exactly handing out loans for rural latrines.
Oh, they won't touch them.
Yeah.
The loan sizes are way too small for banks to care, and the perceived risk of default is too high. So Abu had to essentially bridge that gap himself.
How did he do that?
He connected households with local microlenders. He acted as a facilitator to ensure families who wanted to invest in their dignity actually had the financial mechanism to do so.
That is incredible.
And for the wealthier households who didn't even need loans, he just played matchmaker directly with the sanitation marketers.
So he basically transformed this confusing, expensive household burden into a totally streamlined process.
He removed every excuse.
He really did. But here's where it gets really interesting. Up to this point, Abu has been a great communicator, right? And a great facilitator. But talk is cheap.
Very cheap.
Amano highlights that Abu's smartest move was actually putting his own money on the line.
Yes. the turning point.
He became one of the first people in the entire Kebele to actually purchase an improved toilet for himself.
He became what Amato calls an icebreaker.
But I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
As a villager, you can ignore a speech. But watching the chairman pull out his own wallet, that forces your hand. Isn't this the ultimate proof of skin in the game? I mean, does one guy buying a toilet really change a whole village?
Well, from a purely mathematical standpoint, one toilet doesn't change the public health data at all.
Right, it's just a drop in the bucket.
But sociologically, the concept of the first follower or the icebreaker is the absolute linchpin in the diffusion of innovation.
How so?
When a new behavior is introduced to a traditional community, the primary barrier isn't always financial. It is heavily social. There is a huge risk in being the first person to try something new.
Because if it fails, or if it turns out to be some kind of scam, you look like a fool in front of your entire village.
Exactly. You've wasted a month's savings, and for what?
You lose status.
You lose status. And in a tight-knit community, social status is a form of currency. It's everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when a high-status individual like the respected Kebele chairman takes that financial and social risk upon himself, he absorbs the potential embarrassment for everyone else.
Wow. He takes the hit if it goes wrong.
Right. He validates the purchase. People naturally distrust external salespeople because, their incentives are purely financial.
Right, they just want to make a sale.
Exactly. But they trust the tangible, costly actions of a local peer.
It's the skin in the game. Imagine you're at that meeting, feeling good about the dignity aspect, but you still know the marketer just wants your money.
You're skeptical.
Very skeptical. But then you look over and see the chairman, the guy who handles the community security, the guy who settles your serious land disputes, pulling out his own wallet to build a toilet in his own yard.
The social risk just evaporates.
It completely vanishes. Abu buying that toilet wasn't just a transaction, was it?
No, it was a physical catalyst. It gave the entire village the psychological permission to embrace the change.
And according to Amano, that single purchase was the spark that lit the whole market. The dominoes just started falling.
It's amazing how fast it happens once that barrier breaks.
Right. Neighbors started influencing neighbors. The guy next door gets one. So now you realize you are falling behind the new standard of dignity.
Keeping up with the Joneses, essentially.
Exactly. Demand grew organically. And because demand grew, the local sanitation businesses suddenly had this predictable pipeline of work.
The initial intervention by Abu primed the pump, and then local economics just took over.
As a villager watching this unfold, you're not just seeing a health initiative succeed, you're watching a local microeconomy boom.
Yeah, artisans who might have only done odd jobs before now had consistent paying opportunities.
The whole local sanitation market actually began to function on its own, without external life support from an NGO. Did Abu just accidentally stimulate the local economy by focusing on dignity?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it illustrates exactly how true, sustainable community development works. It wasn't an accident.
Okay.
When development is approached merely as a health mandate, it operates in a silo. It's isolated.
Right.
But when a leader like Avu frames it around value, physically demonstrates that value himself, and ensures local artisans are the ones fulfilling the demand, he creates a self-sustaining ecosystem.
And he didn't stop at individual homes either.
No, he didn't.
Amato notes that Abu expanded his vision to champion these facilities in schools, local health posts, and places of worship. He wanted it to be visible everywhere. His goal was to make improved sanitation normal everywhere.
Which is brilliant because that's how you embed a behavior so deeply that it outlasts any specific development project.
By targeting the public spaces?
Yes. By targeting public institutions, he ensured the next generation, like the kids in those schools, would grow up seeing this as just the baseline standard of living.
It's just normal to them.
Exactly.
So the ultimate result of all this work was the Kebele achieving open defecation-free status, or ODF.
A huge milestone.
We hear that term thrown around a lot in global health reports, but what does ODF actually mean on a practical level for a community?
It is a massive microbiological and cultural threshold. ODF status means that the entire community has collectively eradicated the practice of open defecation.
Meaning everyone has access to and uses a proper facility.
Right. On a cellular level, it means the local water sources are no longer being contaminated by human waste runoff during the rainy season.
Which is huge for disease prevention.
Massive. Dysentery rates plummet. Child mortality drops. But culturally, earning ODF status is a point of immense collective pride. It is a certified marker that the community has elevated its own standard of living.
So, back to our villager perspective. You are no longer just looking at your own new, safe facility. You look around and see a dramatically cleaner
You
community.
see your kids healthier.
Yeah, and the artisans you've known your whole life are making a steady living. The local microeconomy is booming because money is circulating within the village rather than being spent on, emergency medicine.
And that ecosystem belongs to the community now. It doesn't just pack up and leave when the 3-year NGO grant runs out.
It's self-sustaining. Amano writes a really powerful line reflecting on his time there. He says, the success was not primarily about the toilets. It was not about the loans. It was not even about the sanitation businesses. It was about leadership.
That really sums it up. All the strategies and financing models matter, sure, but lasting change usually starts with one person who believes change is possible and is willing to go first.
You can design the perfect theoretical model in a capital
Oh,
city.
people do it all the time.
Right. But without an Abu on the ground, an unsung champion who actually holds the trust of the people and is willing to absorb that social risk, that model will just gather dust on a shelf.
The mechanics of leadership are deeply personal. Abu bridged the gap between a macro-level public health goal and the micro-level reality of a community's daily life.
So what does this all mean?
Well, I think it means that behind every sanitized data point of success in these big global reports, there is a human being who quietly took on the burden of changing a culture.
Yeah, and this isn't just a lesson for rural Ethiopia. It is the fundamental mechanism of how change happens anywhere.
Absolutely anywhere.
Look at your workplace, your neighborhood, your own family. Who is the Abu in your environment? Who is advocating for a better standard? Not because it is their job, but because they genuinely care.
It really raises an important question for all of us.
Yeah.
Where might we need to step up and be the icebreaker?
Yeah.
Where do we need to spend our own social capital to give others the psychological permission to embrace a necessary change?
Where do we need to put our own wallet on the table? Right. We started this conversation talking about the top-down bureaucratic machine of global development, but Abu's story proves that the real power doesn't sit in a distant office.
Not at all.
It sits in the muddy, complex reality of local life. So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today.
Let's hear it.
We spend billions globally trying to engineer behavior from the top down. But if one local leader's personal investment and vision can spark a cultural and economic revolution in a rural Ethiopian Kebele,
Which we just saw happen.
right, what would happen to global development if we stopped pouring all our money into funding the projects and started pouring our resources into finding, supporting, and replicating the Abus of the world?
Yeah, it's the real question.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you next time.